Hi there, it's Steph. Thanks for popping by. Today I wanted to share with you a card I made using a Crafty Impressions Stampset. I first stamped one rose and then I used some Inkadinkado masking paper to cover parts of it so that I would not double stamp on the same spot. I then stamped the second flower, added a new mask, and then stamped a third flower. You will notice that on the second and the third there is no leaf. I have used some painter's tape to cover the part of the flower I did not want to stamp, as you can see now. For the first two I just covered the leaf, and for the fourth one, I covered the whole bottom of the flower, so only the petals would remain. I've put some masking paper as well so it wouldn't double stamp again in the same spot, and I keep on going like that until I have the number of flowers I want. This flower is quite intricate, so I wouldn't cut a whole mask for the whole flower. I'll cut it in portions, so the flowers, the stem, and the leaf when I needed to. So I then used a Cupcake multiliner because it's Cupcake resistant, and I just went over some of the lines because the lines of that stamp are quite fine, and probably a good thing would be to stamp on a piece of fun foam so the lines are a bit more defined and you don't need to go over with the Cupcake markers. So once I'm done with all of that, I can start with my coloring. So I used 3 different pens, one red, one orange, and one yellow for each flower. And I started with the outside of the flower because it's kind of a chain work, you know. You start with, if you do the same part of the flower for each flower, it will take less time than if you do a whole flower and then another one and then another one. So I decided to work like that, and it worked for me. But if you have another way of doing it, that's fair enough. It's just it was the best for me, really. And it was a bit late by that point, so I was getting a bit tired, but I really wanted to at least finish the coloring of that piece. And my idea behind that piece was to do a flower bouquet for Mother's Day, basically. With Valentine's Day, I completely forgot Mother's Day was coming so quickly, and I thought, oh, I really need to do something. And I really like roses, and I thought a bouquet of roses would be very pretty. And because there's a 30-day coloring challenge, I thought it's a great opportunity for me to practice my coloring. I used Copic, but you can use whatever medium you have, obviously. It's just I'm practicing with Copics at the moment, so that was good for me. So the coloring goes on for quite a while. I did try to speed it up so you wouldn't get bored, but it does go on a little bit. And I just keep going round and round. As you can see, I've done all the outside, and then I do around the center, and then I finish with the center. And I could put a bit of music, but I thought we'd talk to you about that company, Crafty Impressions. I found out about, I was literally looking for polymer, photopolymer stamps, polymer, whatever, these good stamps, the one that really stamp really well, and I entered that in Amazon, and it came up with that company, Crafty Impression, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a go because it was quite affordable, and I was actually really pleased with the quality of the stamps. So if you want to have a look, feel free. Once I finished the coloring of the flowers, I've decided that I wanted to add a bit of ink around it, for a bit of background, but not too much, just something rather subtle. So I used some Ranger Distress Ink tumble glass. I placed all the mask backs back onto the roses, but I was missing a few bits, so I just used some painter's tape to keep it all together as well, while I was ink blending, because otherwise it would have gone all over the place. And I really like the blue, actually. I think it contrasts really well with that red, orange, yellow color scheme. I did forget one of the stem at the bottom, but it's not a big deal because I will color it in green anyway, so it won't be a problem. I've used my Copic multiliner to add a bit of, to make the lines a bit more defined around some of the roses, just slightly thicker, and I think it pops a bit better. For the green, I've used 3 different colors of green, and I just try to color where the shadows are, so as if the stems were under the flower, and if the light was coming from above. So I keep going with my coloring, and it doesn't take too long. I mean, this part is quite quick and it's quite straightforward, so I really like the outcome. I think these colors work really well. I was thinking about red roses, and I thought for Mother's Day, orange is probably better. So once I was done with that part of the coloring, I decided to add some shading around the roses. I've recently purchased a set of cool grey Cupcake liners. After waiting for quite a while, I found them at a really good price on eBay, and I thought, oh, I really want to do something with it. So I started by coloring around the roses with the lightest one, the C1, and then I added C3, and then C5, and then C7. And then I went back again, C5, C3, C1, until you can see in the end that really nice blending. And I can't explain why, but I think it looks so nice. It's almost, I wouldn't say it looks like a painting, but I was really, really pleased with the result. And I think although there is this green marker around the flowers, the blue is still there. You can still see the blue, so I'm really glad I did it, because you could think, oh, you could do one or the other, but I'm actually glad I did both. Once I was done, I trimmed my piece of card, and I decided to add more shading around it. And I used the same markers, and I started with C7, and then I added C5, and then C3, and then C1. It's not neat, it's not perfect, but I think it goes really well with that shadow, or halo, maybe I could even call it, around the roses. So I thought it worked out quite well. So once I'm done with that, I will place it on a piece of black cardstock and then on the front of my blank card. It was a little bit narrower than my blank card, so I've just trimmed the edges so it fits fine. And at that point I was quite happy with it. I just needed to add the gritting. So I stamped a few times off camera, so you will only see the final result. That I stamped. It was a straight stamp that I arched a little bit, and then I used some stitched line to cut around it, and so it looks like a little banner. And I added some shading around that as well, and I glued it with some double-sided foam tape. At that stage, I thought, oh, I like it, but something's missing. So I went back to the coloring guru and I inspired myself from her work, and I found these roses she colored not that long ago, and I thought, oh yes, the white does really add something to this roses. So I did that to my roses and it worked great. I really love it. I think it really does a difference. So yeah, that was a really long piece of work. I think it took me about 2.5 hours, 3 hours to do the whole card. So I had to speed up the video as much as possible so it wasn't too long for you to watch. And I hope you like it. Don't be discouraged by coloring. I think it's really worth the effort when you see the final result. So you know, you have to try. And even I didn't think I could do that piece not long ago, to be quite honest, and now I've done it, I'm actually quite glad I did try. And the practice of the coloring, I mean, obviously I'm using Cupcake, but I'm sure you can get a good result with another medium, so don't be put off by the fact that you may not have Cupcake markers, or like me, only a few. So anyway, I hope it inspires you. Please, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. You can see some close-up photos on my blog, and have a great day. Bye!